It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's the Jill on Money Show. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And the way that we do that is we need a little help from you. We ask that you go to our website, jillonmoney.com, and click the Contact Us button. Now, when you click that button, a form will pop up. And that's basically your ability to send us an email. We love those emails, and we're going to do some emails today. If you want to join us live, however, you've got to check that little box off at the end of the form, and then Mark does everything else. He'll arrange to get you on the air. But as I said, we are very happy to address the shy people out there. In fact, let's do an email right now. This is from Kay, who writes, subject, oh, perfect for what I just said. Got laid off. Can I retire? By the way, Mark, Teresa Ghilarducci, one of our favorite podcast guests, retirement expert, economist, she really does go deep into the idea of how people can't necessarily rely on working longer because they have a situation like the one I am about to relay to you. Here's what Kay says. Dear Jill and Mark, I've been listening to your podcast regularly for several years. Please keep up the wonderful work. I'm 60 years old, have just recently got laid off. This gives me the chance to review our finances and reconsider retirement. Here is the situation. My spouse is 61. His annual income, $155,000. My current part-time income, $20,000. Monthly expenses, $7,500. Okay, the Social Security numbers. If they go early, 62, husband, $2,300. Husband at age 67, $2,600. That's not that big a difference, actually. Hers at 62, $1,300. Hers at 67, $2,100. My husband has a pension, $2,000 per month. Here's what they have. Traditional IRA, $150,000. A Roth IRA, $300,000. $900,000 in a 401k, $350,000 in a brokerage account, $40,000 in an HSA, and $125,000 in an emergency reserve fund. Kids are grown and launched. Hopefully no boomerang in the near future. No debt. House is paid off. No major medical expense yet. Knock on wood. Hold on. That was me knocking on wood. My husband has been talking about retiring at age 62. What do you think? Can we pull this off at age 62? Okay. First of all, forget about taking Social Security at age 62. Just forget about it. That's not happening. So here's the question. If you retire at age 62, between 62 and 67, for those 5 years, how are you going to pull money out to actually bridge the gap between your husband's pension and your needs? Well, I mean, one idea is to start pulling money out of your 401k and live on that for a while. So you need about, let's say, $100,000 a year for 5 years. Okay. You take $100,000 out of the 401k, you pay the tax that's due, and you live on it, okay? Then, at age 67, you have your Social Security and his Social Security, right? Or you have to wait one more year, but I'm going to pretend it's all the same. And at that point, you're in pretty good shape. 26.7. Yeah, I mean, you're pretty close. And then you can pull some more money out of the retirement account, whether it's the IRA or the 401k. You can let the Roth continue to build. You can let the brokerage build. I think they can pull it off. Not knowing every single thing, my general advice would be, I think you can do it. Obviously, the longer he works, the better it gets. On the other hand, if he's just fried and you're reconsidering things, I think you can pull it off. Currently, says Kay, they are moderately aggressive, 70% stock, 30% bond and CD. Mark, do you have any problem with that distribution for right now?
For their ages, it's a bit too risky for me for their ages. I would probably be more like 60-40.
I would think this. In at least the 401k and the traditional IRA where we think you're going to pull the money out first, that I would really be careful with. So I would have at least 2 years of your cash needs in short-term instruments. Okay, so maybe a year in the money market, 1 year in maybe a CD, just so you know when it comes due, you have your money for the following year. All right. But I agree with you, Mark. I think I would rather be 60-40 or even 50-50, at least in the 401k and the traditional IRA.
By the way, they'll have a few years. Maybe they get healthcare through his job. I don't know because he has a pension, but they'll have to cover healthcare costs.
Right. So we're hoping that $7,500 includes the healthcare. All right. Here is, this is from our favorite family, Anonymous. Purchase of home for child. Mark, this is something else. I mean, I've heard so many stories like this. So Anonymous says, my wife and I are retired. They're 65 and 63. They live in California. They'd like to purchase a home for their child who's 30. All right. The cost.
Well, wait till you see the assets.
Okay. Cost of a 1 to 2 bedroom condo is about $1 million. Child's working will pay the property taxes and homeowners. Okay. Oh, I see your point. Thank you. Okay, here's the assets, gang. This is the kind of person who can happily pay for their kid's $1 million condo. They have $1.6 million in traditional retirement, $1 million in Roth, $6 million in brokerage, HSA, a donor advised fund, and a house that's paid off. All right. They've got mostly index mutual funds and ETFs at Fidelity. They plan on taking Social Security at 70, wife at 67, yearly expenses, $140,000. They pay for their health insurance. They'll be on Medicare soon. They've got long-term care. They have will and trust. So here's a question. Should we pay for the condo in cash and liquidate some of our investments, or should we consider financing some of it? No way. Pay cash. So what? They're going to have to cash out $500,000 of stocks or bonds. They've got $600,000 in cash. Sell it off. I'm done. There's no reason to finance this. Absolutely not. The last part is we are planning to leave our IRA and 401k to our child. Is it better to leave money from a retirement or brokerage as inheritance? The best asset to receive as an inheritance is a Roth. That's number one. I don't know if the kid is going to be in a lower tax bracket than you, but remember when they receive an inherited IRA or 401k, they have to get that money out over the course of 10 years. So I think that maybe I'd probably rather if I'm the kid, I'd rather get the Roth and the brokerage because they get a step up in cost basis. That's what I think. All right. Question. I consider ourselves between medium to high risk tolerance. Should I continue to convert to Roth since retirement is earmarked for child? Yeah, sure. My thoughts about investing your retirement and brokerage accounts, do what you're doing. You're doing great. And keep it in index funds or ETFs. Keep the costs down. Just make sure that if your spouse is someone who is not comfortable managing the money and you are comfortable managing the money, that you have a real conversation about what would happen if you predecease the spouse. Okay? If you have a financial question, it's just a few clicks away to get an answer. All you need to do is go to JillOnMoney.com and click the Contact Us button. Now, while you're on the website, there's all sorts of fun stuff for you to do. You can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. It comes out every Friday, and I think it's a great tune-up for this program. You can also subscribe to Jill on Money Live. That is where you have access to quarterly live webinars and special bonus video content, all for $35. The Jill on Money Show. We will be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the program that attempts to help you identify your financial goals, and then hopefully we're able to bring a lot of different options to the table and help you get where you want to go. And sometimes we might veer one way or another, but at least you'll have more information. If you'd like to get in touch with us, all you need to do is go to our website. That's JillOnMoney.com. and click the Contact Us button. The form will pop up. You write your email. Fantastic. If you want to come on the air live, just check that box. While you're on the website, don't forget to check out all of the free content that lives there. There's a blog. There are other shows and podcasts. There's videos and resources, all at JillOnMoney.com. Right now, let's take this email. This is from John, whose subject is, where do I go next? Okay. I'm not as well off as most folks I hear about, but what's next for me and my family? I lose sleep about being able to afford where I live, which is in California. My tax bracket is 35%. Money quickly comes in and goes out, even though we have a thoughtful budget. My wife always tells me we're way ahead and fine. All right, let's see what we got. All my savings and work bonuses have gone to paying down my home and refinancing. What? Well, here you got a big problem. Mark, they have a rate of 1.75%. Why are we paying this off? Is it a balloon? Maybe it's a balloon. Is it a balloon that gets paid off in 11 years? It has 11 years to pay off. I wouldn't pay a dime towards that. The house is worth $1.4 million. No wonder this guy's making himself crazy. He's 42 years old. They have one kid. He's got a job in tech. Wife is stay-at-home mom. 2 working years short of qualifying for Social Security. Salary is $335, gets a $65,000 bonus. So $400,000. Money in an old rollover, $5,000, $20,000 in a 401k, $300,000 in employee stock, $2,000 in college savings, high spending on trips. Any insight? Okay, you ready for your insight? Stop paying down your mortgage. Stop it. Just stop. And I don't know what is going on, like how much you're paying down. I need that number. But I want to tell you something, John. You're probably in much better shape without paying that down. Paying off that house does nothing for you. Zero. Right?
Yeah. I mean, he makes a good living. He's got to get cranking on the retirement savings.
Yeah. What you need to be doing is socking away tons of money in retirement. Forget about college savings. And you spend $30,000 a year on trips. I mean, that's fine with me, but you got to save money. This is Billy. Okay. Who, by the way, watches us on the compound, which I like. I'm retired, not married, not yet drawing Social Security. I have a Roth IRA that, given my net worth and passive income, is planned to be passed on to my heirs. That's good. I live in another country with a high taxation rate. Oh, my God, marginal rate over 50%. Stop complaining us, right? I plan to move back to the U.S. this year. I'm going to buy a house. Okay. Here is the question. Is it financially better to buy a house by using a Roth, thereby not incurring a very painful tax event, nor mortgage interest or fees, or take a mortgage for 6 months to a year, then next year, when I'm only subject to U.S. taxes, sell from my brokerage account to pay off the mortgage? I can also use the 60-day rollover rules for an IRA and pay off the mortgage from the Roth account in November, then restore the value to the Roth in January from my brokerage account as a rollover. Might be too many hoops to save 2 months of mortgage interest. Okay. On one hand, it seems odd to pay 7% for mortgage interest, even for just a year, which is including fees, et cetera. And he said the issue is, this is an interesting question. It's really, you would only do that. You'd pay that money, okay, just to preserve the Roth that essentially this guy's never going to use. He's just planning to use it to pass on to his heirs. On the other hand, I realize there's a break-even point where the tax-free Roth gains will start to outpace my expenses for having a mortgage for 6 to 12 months, plus the $5,000 in fees. So the net is, I have wound myself around the axle. The Roth was so hard to get and also to accumulate, and I hate to give it up. But on the other hand, it is there to be used when needed. In case it matters, if I were to use the brokerage account to pay off the mortgage next year, it would generate about $250,000 of capital gains in 2025. This is what I would do. I think I would do it for the 1 year. And not even the 1 year, but like maybe what I would also do is just this. Let's say you got the mortgage for a year for the heck of it, okay? And you've got your Roth. And then essentially you wait until that year is up because we don't want that high taxation rate. Is there any pre-tax money anywhere in this scenario? I don't think there's any pre-tax money. So maybe what I would do is that I don't know how much money you're really going to have tax return wise in that second year, but perhaps what we might do is divvy it up for a year or two. And, wouldn't it be kind of nifty if this guy could essentially take some of the money and pay 15% long-term capital gains on it 1 year and a little bit more the following year and then use that and be done? I think I would do that. We'll know more about the tax situation, but I don't want to generate 250 grand in capital gains in 1 year. I might dribble that out a little bit and just make it 2 calendar years. And that way you'll carry the mortgage for an extra few months, but I think you'll be okay.
I think he's got a lot of money because the way he says, give him my net worth and my passive income.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that he's okay.
These are the rich people problems. This is from Kelly, who was recently hired as a nanny. I'm saving 25% of my pay for taxes, but I was wondering, what could I write off? I drive to their house 25 miles one way, use my cell phone. Is there anything else I need to keep track of or receipts since I just started? I like to be organized and prepared when it comes to tax time next year. We'll get that. Okay, so you're self-employed, which means you can absolutely deduct expenses associated with your business. So whatever it is that you are using, like the drive to their house, the cell phone for their correspondence, anything else that you're paying for that is directly associated with the job, you can write off. Now, of course, you're a nanny, so it's not like you're going to write off part of your house, right? If you were like a graphic designer and you're doing freelance work, there is a possibility for doing that, but you're doing great. All right, this is from Hillary. To Roth or not to Roth? That is the question. Hillary writes, I love your podcast. I listen on YouTube. Definitely not a high earner like most of your listeners. By the way, it's not most of our listeners. We have a ton of different kinds of listeners, okay? Hillary goes on to say, I do my best. I'd appreciate your advice. I'm wondering if it's worth changing my contributions to put more into a Roth and if I should put it into my work Roth or Vanguard. I'm 52 next month. I've got $70,000 in a Vanguard Roth IRA, $310,000 in a 403B. I actually am able to put money towards a Roth within the 403B. I make $68,000. I was putting in $8,400 a year, $550 to the 403B, $150 to the Vanguard Roth. I just bumped it up to $9,000 a year. I'm doing okay. So I'm aggressive with my portfolio. I'm single. I've got a 12-year-old in private school on a scholarship. I pay about $5,500 a year. I got $6,000 in emergency reserve fund, high yield savings account. I was doing mostly pre-tax to keep my income lower to qualify for scholarships. Not sure it's going to make a big deal now. Will be a factor in college when the time comes. I'm going all Roth all the time, Mark. How about you?
I'm going all Roth, and I'm probably leaning using Vanguard over the 403B. I'm guessing there's better options.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think I would max out my Vanguard with the Vanguard Roth, which means you could put $8,000 in there because she's over 50, right, gang? So it's $7,000 plus the $1,000 catch up. So you can put in $8,000. I want a little more in your emergency reserve fund, by the way. And let's see where she lands from there. If you have a big question that impacts your financial life, we are here to help you out. Both Mark and I are certified financial planners. We love the big picture view of what's going on in your life. Just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, and click the Contact Us button. Now, while you're on the website, don't forget to check out our show called Jill on Money, powered by The Compound. There's a link right there on our website. The Jill on Money Show. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. And maybe there's not a big mystery. Maybe you've run into a problem, or maybe something has changed. Maybe there's a birth, maybe there's a death, a divorce, a marriage. All those things could trigger some financial questions. Just get in touch with us. Go to JillOnMoney.com. Right now, let's talk to Warren and Susie from Florida. So you guys were on the program last year, at the end of last year. What's going on now?
At that time, we were driving from home in South Dakota to spend the winter in Florida. While winter has since left, we are still in Florida as April Fool's Day brought us another mechanical failure with our trailer, but we were planning to spend a few days in St. Augustine on our way back anyway.
Okay.
So that's where we are now. The reason for today's call was you helped us out with trying to figure out what to do with a whole life insurance policy, and making some conversions or thinking about conversions for long-term care. At that time, we did convert the policy for long-term care, a hybrid policy, long-term care and a life insurance benefit. As that was kind of seemed like the best thing. We also have another whole life policy that we're debating on using the cash value of that for living expenses. That was an option you discussed at that time.
Mm-hmm. However, so how much is in the cash value, just out of curiosity on that one?
That one's just under $20,000.
Okay, got it. Okay, keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're good. It's your show. We were listening to one of your podcasts this winter, and it was talking about intergenerational wealth. And we were like, hey, we've got kind of an issue here that's been a thorn in our side, like about an 8-inch thorn in our side.
An 8-inch thorn. That's the name of the episode, I think, Mark.
Okay.
No, it's not SEO friendly. Okay, continue.
Roughly 15 years ago, Susie's mom and father, her father was going through some health issues and needed to be put in assisted living. And so to, think about it's like the Medicaid spend down and all that type of stuff. One of the suggestions Susie's mom's elder care attorney suggested was gifting some money to your children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she did that, and over the years, it's grown in a brokerage account. As you know, you've seen the success of the stock market.
Sure.
Well, last fall, after we talked with you guys, Susie's mom comes up and goes, "I want my money."
Uh-oh.
Well, as you know, and as all the brokerage statements state, it's not her money.
No.
She's rather stubborn. That's putting it very mildly. Would you agree? Sorry, Susie's over here just shaking her head going,
poor
yeah.
Susie is, thankfully she changed her name. But, she knows exactly who her mother is, so we don't have to. So how much money was it, by the way?
You mean what we started with or what we ended with?
Yeah, the start.
The start was, $13,000 for Susie and her brother and sister each.
Okay, and when was that? Years ago?
2010.
Oh my gosh! So what's it worth now?
It was worth nearly $152,000.
So it was gifted in 2010. You get the cost basis gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
But it's in your name. It's a statement. It says Susie, right?
Yep. Pros and cons of being the oldest child.
Yep. Now what?
Well, so she wants her money. And she's...
How old is she?
77.
Is she, like, competent? 77's young-ish. Is she healthy? Like, what's her condition right now?
She's somewhat healthy. Unfortunately, long-term smoker, she stopped during the pandemic, but she's, having some health some health complications as a result of some things.
Yeah.
She's living with Susie's brother and his wife, who is not only a nurse, but also has her doctorate, so she teaches nursing.
So now what are we doing here? What's the actual, what is the game plan?
The game plan, well, There really wasn't much of one other than Susie's sibling saying, get her the money.
Oh, gosh. So now the sibling is agitating. In other words, the sibling and mom are in it together. Kind of.
Kind of.
Okay. And does the sibling did or did not receive any of that money? Like, did the sibling also receive an equivalent to the $13,000 in 2010 or not?
They all agreed to contribute the money to this pool.
Okay. But it's the pool is in your name?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you paying for anything out of this account that is important in terms of her care and her long-term ongoing needs?
It hadn't been touched. That was the goal behind the money. You know, when she needed care or whatever, we would withdraw from this.
Okay. But she doesn't need that so far.
Correct. And
but what's the deal? Like, what is it that she wants? She wants all this money in her name? Like, you're not going to do that. That's so silly. You can't go up a generation. It's more likely, like, does the sibling say that there are expenses that are coming out of their pockets?
Nope.
Oh, my God, this is crazy. How much do you want to talk to your sibling in the future? Do you want to, like, blow up this relationship, Susie, or not?
No, my siblings are fine with it.
In terms of giving her the money.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, but you're not, right?
Well, no, we agreed and made the transfer in November.
Oh, so you transferred this $152,000 in November.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question I have for you is, when you did that, did you file a gift tax return? You can't just give money to people without saying to the government, I just gave $150,000 to your mom, right? You still have to say, you won't have to pay anything. You do have to file a gift tax return for this.
We have not yet.
That you need to do. Oh, my dogs are going crazy about this. They're not happy about this story at all. We'll get back to Warren and Susie in just a minute. This is the Jill on Money Show. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Let's return to Warren and Susie from Florida. This is the weirdest story. And so what is the actual question that you guys need to try to figure out at this point?
Well, you've already answered part of it. Is there something that we still need to do about this? So over time, somebody suggested we keep a spreadsheet of how much we've been paying on this account in terms of capital gains, how much it's impacted our taxes over time.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Oh, no, we did it.
Yeah.
Whether or not we'll actually see the money from...
Yeah, I'm going to say, like, so what? Like, it doesn't matter. They're going to give you the money back. Like, in other words, whatever it is, $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000.
Well, closer to 10, but
okay.
Yeah,
are they going to actually give that back? Is mom going to gift that back to you?
We hope so.
She said she likes to pay her debts, but when it's $10,000, we'll see.
Well, she has $152,000 right now, so you know.
I mean, how important is this money to you guys?
Good question. Not at all. This is the weirdest thing. I have to say, this is a very strange story. So, okay, my 2 cents on this is that if your mother, so you should present the spreadsheet of the costs that were incurred on a tax basis to you guys, okay? Present it to your mom and all the siblings. Share it with everybody, okay? And say, hey, we're owed $10,000. You can gift that back to us. That may or may not happen. I don't know. I hope so for you guys, but the 8-inch thorn that is in your side has not been quite lanced just yet. So the other part is in your control, and you should file a gift tax return for this money.
And how do we do that?
So you go to an accountant and you say, or do you have your own lawyer who did your own wills?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, we're just not going to be there until August.
Okay, but you need to get in touch with somebody and say, hey, in 2023, we gifted our mother $152,000. A gift tax return is actually pretty easy to file in this case because all you're saying to the government is, I put $152,000 into someone's hands. I'm going to use part of my estate tax allowance that is due for me upon my death. I'm going to do it right now. Meaning that right now, if you have less than $13,610,000, okay, that's you. You just got in under the wire.
Yes, just barely.
Each, by the way. So you have less than $27 million. You say to the government, my gift tax allowance, I'm going to use $152,000 of that allowance. That's all that you're saying, because you're not going to have to pay a tax. It's just that if the government looks at a transfer of $152,000, they're going to say, who did this to what? Like, what's going on here? And they're going to want to make sure that you account for it. Now, they may not catch you, but I think I would rather do it. So what I think makes sense is, we're talking to you in April. Even if you just went to the irs.gov website and you did this yourself or with the guidance of somebody who is a tax person and say, hey, we need to file this return. And that's what I would do. And I would try to get that done. And at the very least, if you could, I know you're on the road, even if you could do it, like, when do you think you're going to be at your destination?
You mean with the attorney who drew up our estates and all that stuff?
Yeah, when are you going to be there?
September.
So I would get in touch with them and just tell them what happened and say, we need a gift tax return created. You can file this electronically. You'll just sign, you know what I mean? Like, it's an e-file. It'll be no money needs to change hands. It's just the filing of it. That's what I would do.
And we do this for next year because we've already finished our taxes for this year.
Well, it would be a separate return anyway, so you should do it for this year. You should do it now. Meaning that it's like a gift tax return is different than your income tax return. So you should try to do this before April 15th. I know, I'm sorry, the gun is to your head so close.
It's not bad.
I don't know if you're going to get this 10 grand back, I got to tell you.
And we'll just add the cost to get this lawyer
Yeah, you should.
computation to the bill.
You should. But I will say this. I'm glad you just gave it back because it's not worth blowing up the relationship, even though you probably hate everybody right now. A little bit.
I can't speak for Susie, but there's times where it was extremely frustrating, and just the calls and all this stuff, and I need all these documents. Well, sorry, we don't have all these. We lost some in a flood. Well, what are you gonna do? You have to take my word for it. I guess I'm good enough for manual labor, and I've done your taxes before, but now I'm not good enough to provide you this information. Sorry, a little bit of a vent.
Families are so crazy. Really?
I wonder, does she still have the full? What has she done with the money? Any idea?
Sitting in a bank account.
So strange.
So strange. What happened? I'll tell you something. Not that I want to put any poison in your head. I feel like the sibling is behind this. I don't know why.
It might be aunts and uncles.
Yeah, it might be her siblings too.
She took a trip up to New York, and after she came back, everything fell apart.
Oof. Very strange. Very strange.
Thanks, we know. Thanks for confirming. We appreciate it.
I love you guys. Drive carefully. If you have a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com and click the Contact Us button. So easy. The Jill on Money Show. We'll be right back. You're back. It's the Jill on Money Show. This is the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. If you've got a question, just go to our website, jillonmoney.com. While you're on the website, you can check out all of our content. It lives there. We've got a blog. We've got other shows. We've got 2 podcasts. We have videos and resources, and you can always sign up for the free weekly newsletter, which comes out every Friday. All right, before we finish up this hour, let's take a question from Anonymous, who writes, in your interview with Ed Slott, you alluded to having one's home in a revocable trust as being a big tax mistake. Can you please elaborate? You know, I'd have to go back to the interview and make sure that I said revocable versus irrevocable, but let's just go through the different choices here. A revocable trust is a changeable trust, meaning once you create it, put an asset into it, but you can change the terms, you can change beneficiaries, and it's pretty easy to manage. It's pretty much as if it were just some other account in your name, but it does avoid probate. So that can be a big advantage of a revocable trust. The drawback of a revocable trust is the cost to draft it, and it may not be necessary. But also, what if you want to refinance the property? Because the legal title to this asset, this home, is held in the name of this trust, a lot of banks and title companies will not refinance. So what I think is really important in any of these issues is to consult a qualified estate attorney who can guide you through whether or not you need to be doing this, whether it's worth the cost, whether it's worth the risk of losing control of an asset with an irrevocable trust. All of these things would come into play. So that is it for the hour, and it is my pleasure to tell you we have a whole nother hour ahead of us. This is the Jill on Money Show. If you've got a financial question, just go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and let us know if you would like to join us on the air live. It's very easy. Just check the box, and Mark does everything else. Jill on Money. We will be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's the Jill on Money Show. We're here answering your financial questions. Let's start the hour with Jennifer, who's on the line from Washington State. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, Jill and Mark. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm super excited to talk with you all.
Excellent. What's going on? How can we help you out?
I'm interested in getting some help on where to focus so I can have the most flexibility, most freedom to choose a work travel mix starting in the next few years.
Okay. So what you want to figure out is how much money do I really need to sock aside and know that I can do work travel, like work and travel, or do you want to be able to work wherever you do travel?
More the former.
Okay.
I've listened to enough of your podcast and others to know that in general, humans aren't great at having a working career and then dropping off a cliff and having no work. Plus, I'll probably be less annoying to myself if I have something to occupy my time in the form of work.
I like that you say annoying to yourself. I'm not annoyed by you at all. So I'm sorry that you have not joined in here. Jennifer, how old are you?
I am 52.
Okay. And are you partnered, single, married? What do you got?
I am partnered. She lives in another state, and we don't combine. We're independent in terms of finances.
Okay. But all right. So I'm just going to leave her off on the side there. You should, of course, focus on her 100%. But I'm just saying, for financial purposes, I'm only planning based on what you're telling me. You're not necessarily combining. And also, are you responsible, though, for taking care of her?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Got it. Right now, you're working and you earn how much?
Last year it was around 400,000. This year it's going to be probably in the low 300s.
Is that new for you? Is that something that you've been making? Have you been earning that much money for a long period of time?
Prior to this particular position, I was in the mid to high 100s.
Oh my gosh! So this was a huge jump.
It was a significant jump, and I've tried my best not to be victim of lifestyle inflation while still enjoying my life. I kept my old truck for 12 years, so I didn't run out and buy anything new. Well, until last year.
Okay, I can't wait to hear about what we did last year. But hold on a second. So let's talk a little bit about the amount of money you have saved based on the old income and also now. Like, what have you accumulated so that I can figure out how to do this work travel thing?
Sure. I'll give you the rundown. In rollover IRAs, I have 1.2 million.
Woo.
In Roth IRA, I have 818,000. I have 71,000 that's vested in the current company's 401k. I contribute 6%. We get a 50% match.
They match 50% up to the 6%, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Just want to make sure I got that. So what about, so that's retirement, rollover Roth, current 401k. Do you also have a brokerage account?
I do. I have 200,000 in a brokerage account. I've got 300,000 in cash.
What for?
I've got a little.
Why is that so much so high?
Well, as I mentioned in my email, Jill, one of my life's philosophies is to always have an escape plan and a getaway vehicle.
I like that. Very good. Have you felt like now that you're making this much more money, have you felt, I mean, of course, as you said, you don't want to have lifestyle drift, but like, are you spending more money now?
I do spend more money there monthly. There are a couple of reasons for that. I recently relocated to another state, so Washington State, as you mentioned, and I kept I have a paid for home back in the state where I came from, and I receive a rental income from that nets me about $1,450 a month. So I was living my housing costs were very low, next to nothing in my former state because I own the house, and here I pay $3,600 a month in rent. Thankfully, offset a little bit by that rental income, so that's one increase in my expenditures. I did pay cash for the car that I bought last year, so I'm good on that. And then my other big expenditure is travel, and I've really started to prioritize that more than I have in the past.
So I'm not judging you. You're making $300,000, okay? What do you guess with this current situation? So that means include your rent and also the rental income. But what do you really think your expenses are running? Again, it doesn't have to be exact, an approximate guesstimate.
Sure. I ran through those numbers, and with the life that I like to have now, which does include a healthy travel budget, it's about $10,000 a month.
Is this new company going to entitle you to a pension of any sort?
No.
Okay. Do you feel like give us an idea of what you think you'd like to happen, like besides the escape plan with a getaway vehicle. But I mean, like, what would you like to happen over the next 10 or 15 years?
Well, I'd like for a few things to happen a little bit before 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do in the nearer term is work in my profession for, say, the next 3 years at most. And while I do love it, I just thought maybe of shifting gears in my mid 50s and add a little bit of texture to my life. Maybe try something else.
Okay.
Definitely not a fan of, as I mentioned, just dropping off a cliff and not working at all. I do want to continue to work, but maybe something that's a bit more flexible.
So when we think about that, I'm going to put this down. So 3 years of work in the low 300s, continuing to save a lot of money. Then at age 55, until some period of time, you'll tell me when, what is the hope in terms of some income for that? Let's call it your off ramp. That's your off ramp period. Like 3 years, you're going, pedal to the metal. Now you're going to ease up. We're getting over to the side. We're exiting. And now we've got an off ramp. How long is that off ramp going to last? And how much do you think you can earn during that period of time?
I'm thinking an off ramp of maybe around 5 years, 5 to 7 years, which will bring me to my early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking ballpark 50, 75,000, something pretty easy, pretty flexible.
Something you could like just bank, right? Okay, I got that much, right? And at that point, would you move back to the home that you own in your prior state?
That's not my first choice. It's so dang hot there. So that'll keep me away.
Okay, wait. Then I have another question for you before you go. Tell me how much that house is worth right now.
On a good day, she's a bungalow, and she's about $350 or $375.
Is there any reason why we should not sell that in 3 or 4 years?
It would only be for sentimental reasons, or if I couldn't have a paid off. My idea is to have a paid off home somewhere so I don't have a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be that one for me just because of the location.
Okay, I got you. I mean, it's just like you're not making that much money on this asset that is, again, worst case, a $350,000 asset. But I mean, it's not terrible, but it's okay. But it is equity that is available in some form to do something with. We'll get back to Jennifer in just a minute. If you'd like to join us, just go to JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Let's return to Jennifer from Washington State. What happens at age 60? You're done making your 50 or 75 grand a year. Then what? I mean, it's a long retirement. You could live for 3 or 4 more decades.
Right. I sure hope so. Then what? Probably would shift into additional volunteer opportunities.
That doesn't sound like income to me. You see where I was going with that? I wanted income, but okay. No income for me. No income for you, Jill. So then I'm waiting until your full retirement age or age 70. So at age 67, do you know what your Social Security benefit would be?
I do, just over $3,800.
And what about at age 70?
Just over $4,800.
I like that one better, don't you?
I love that one. I want to hug that one.
I know, me too. How's your health? Good?
It is good.
Longevity in the family?
Early 80s.
Okay, that's a good number. Late 80s is good as long as you have your brains. When you say work travel, like you do want some base, right?
I do, yeah.
The idea here is, do we have the money to get you where you need to go? How much are you, okay, you're putting 6% away into the 401k. What else are you saving in addition to that 6% of your $300-something thousand?
Sure. At a minimum, and this depends on when my RSUs vest, et cetera, at a minimum, I'm adding $3,000 a month to that brokerage account. It can go anywhere from $3,000 to a few months ago, I put $30,000 in it. So, but a minimum of $3 a month.
Okay. So in addition to like the 18 or 20 something $1,000 that's going into the retirement account, then you have this $3,000 a month, and that's going to remain consistent, we think, right? Just, I mean, because your income was so much larger last year. Now it's in the low 300s, but do you think it's going to go up again? Or do you think that it is, should we presume low 300s for the next 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's safer to assume between 350 for the next few years. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's good. So let me ask you a question. If you had to choose between working more in this iteration of your life, like from 52, like if you say from 52 to 58, would you rather like put in a couple extra years at this level, or would you rather put in more time working in the next period during the off-ramp period? If you had to choose, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying if you did have to choose.
I would choose my current state. Yeah, I would work a few more years with what I have.
Okay. I mean, I think that there's a few issues here. Not issues. It's not like a terrible thing. But obviously, we don't have a ton of options when you say, I'm going to stop working at age 55. You could certainly invoke the rule of 55. Here's the deal. There's this rule from the IRS. So you are probably thinking, I got to work till I'm 59 and a half to get this money out of my rollover account. And there's a lot of money in there, right? But there is a potential, this rule of 55, which is essentially at age 55, you say to the IRS, I have a bunch of money in my 401k. So let's just pretend instead of a rollover account and a 401k, you have one 401k. You take all the rollover money, you roll it into your 401k. And now instead of 1.2 and 71, we mush them together. And now you have, let's just call it $1.3 million in your 401k. And let's also then presume that you work for 3 more years, you put the contribution and they put the contribution and everything grows. And let's just pretend you're at age 55 and you've got $1.5 million in your 401k. You can essentially invoke a rule that says to the IRS, I am taking money out of my 401k at age 55. I am invoking the rule of 55, and I'm going to take this money out over a period of time. So let's say that you decided, okay, from age 55 to age 70, this could be kind of a fabulous thing for you. From 55 to 70, every year I'm going to take out, let's call it $100,000 from my 401k. Every year you take it out, you pay the tax that's due, right? You're going to need to pay your taxes, sadly. And by the time you reach your age 70, you have all the money, like basically your 401k is dead, kaput, done. But you still have your Roth and you still have your brokerage account. And to me, those are quite valuable to you. You will now also alleviate that pressure of having to have the required minimum distribution later. Then you have your Social Security kicks in at $4,800. It'll be more than $4,800, obviously, because of inflation adjustments. But you'll have other money to pad your numbers. And if let's just pretend you're like, I don't need exactly $400,000 out of the 401k every year. I'd still take it out because I would like to just empty that account, pay the tax that's due on it. And if you're making extra money in the, your off-ramp years, you can just add it to your brokerage account. And then I think this could actually work. I'm not so sure about the housing part of it. I really don't know the answer to that. I guess that from the perspective of if you had to sell that place, did you, maybe you would buy something else, but you'd have to really want to live someplace. There's no use to just like buy for the sake of buying. It doesn't really matter. And I guess it also depends on how much you're traveling and, whether this 100,000, this 10,000 a month or 120,000 a year is getting much bigger. It's smaller. I don't know. It's kind of like, we'll have to see. But actually, when you were first telling the story, I thought, oh, she's going to have to sell this house right away because we're going to have to, but not necessarily. And maybe the rent will be enough. Or maybe you'll say, I don't want to deal with this as a rental. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to rent somewhere else. And let's see if something else comes up. I think that this works. What I am not exactly sure about is the housing aspect. If you say to me, I just want to own something that gives me a huge sense of security, I get that. But whatever you sell the house that you own for, then that's what you have to spend on your new place. Because what is clear to me is that adding a mortgage into this might actually not be great. And additionally, if you say, well, no, I don't really want a mortgage because I'm sort of allergic to a mortgage. But if all of a sudden you say, I need to invade my brokerage account to pay for a different kind of home, I'm going to come back to you and I'll say, okay, well, either then that off-ramp work has to continue for a longer period of time, or you have to reduce your expenses, which may happen naturally. You may decide, I don't want to do as much travel in my, from 55 to 70, you might be like a travel animal. And then at 73, you might be like, I'm not traveling as much. I've scorched the earth. It's been great. But I think you can do this, Jennifer. I'm excited.
Okay. I had a moment of white hot panic when directionally, I think I'm headed in an all right place, and I think I've saved a decent amount of money.
A great amount of money.
But sometimes, Jill, I got to tell you, I think, what does a girl have to do? Like, how much money does a girl have to save?
Yeah, I get you, because it I think also what happens is we move our own goalposts. So I presume if I spoke to you 20 years ago and I said to you, Jennifer, at 32, if I said, you're going to have $2.5 million saved by the time you're 52, you would look at me wide eyed and say, that's impossible. There's no way I could do that. And you do. That's what you have. And that doesn't even include the equity in your home. If you want to give yourself that off ramp, great. You should totally do it. And if you need an escape plan with a getaway vehicle, you've built that for yourself. You've created your own escape plan. The getaway vehicle is gassed up and ready to go. The question that will plague you, which I cannot answer, is whether you actually want to invoke the escape plan or not. And you don't have to. You might be like, all right, now that I know I can do it, I'm super scared about it. That makes me nuts. Okay, maybe, but you don't have to worry. There's nothing bad that's going to happen. It's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Let's take an email from Melissa, who writes, I heard your episode about intergenerational family issues, and I've got one for you. My husband, in his 40s, owns the family house in a city in California. His two younger brothers, in their 30s, live there along with his mother. She's in her 60s. They don't pay rent, just the mortgage directly. The house was purchased 20 years ago for $120,000. It's now worth over $500,000. This was a rent-to-own situation. The family grew up there. The house is in a poor neighborhood, and no one has been able to leave other than my husband. They all want to move someday, but they've been saying that for decades. Their payment for the mortgage is under $800 for the three of them, and there are no comparable rental situations. The weird part is this. The reason my husband owns this house is because that was the family's solution to immigration and credit issues. His parents are immigrants that were not able to purchase the home at that time, so they put the home in my husband's name when he was in his early 20s. He was the only one with credit, and the understanding was this was the family house and would always be there for anyone in the family. My husband doesn't think of it as his house, but his mother's house. That he owns the house is stressful for me because it's not well kept, and I'm not sure if we're responsible for that. It has some electrical issues. Their dad, when he was living, would do all the work himself, as well as other problems that the brother and mother just live with. Recently, a tree fell on one of their cars, and it was a tree on the property. I don't know if we're responsible for maintaining the yard better. We don't collect rent. We have nothing to do with the ownership. The mortgage is at 6.7%, and I wanted to refinance it a few years ago when it was under 3%. Everyone turned on that idea. Still scared, I think, that the mother's immigration status would cause a problem. So I haven't spoken up since. My philosophy has been to let them handle it themselves. If it were my house, I would take much better care of it and charge rent, but they don't want to do that at all. We're renters ourselves with a small baby in a different city. We're working on our own finances, live modestly, but not in poverty like his family. And we're doing okay in that we can cover the cost of daycare and even have a small emergency fund. What are the pitfalls of this situation? Are we responsible for the upkeep of the house? My in-laws who are there don't think so, but legally, my husband seems to be on the hook. I want out. I just can't see a good solution. I'm worried about the day we try to sell the house, whenever that is, because I think we'll owe a lot of taxes and fees. Oof, Melissa, this is a rough one. So I think the first thing you should do is you should actually contact an attorney and just get a view on this. In my understanding that, as long as you own the house, you also need to maintain insurance and you also need to pay the taxes that are due. So the real question is, if they are paying the mortgage directly, does that mortgage cover property taxes? And also, is there homeowner's insurance on the property that someone is paying for? That would cover a lot of your legal liability. In essence, I think this is a pretty impossible situation, mostly because unless your husband wants to take control of it and do something different, there may not be a lot of good ideas. I wonder, though, if you talk to an attorney, what it would mean if perhaps you could sell the home to the younger brothers who are in their 30s, right? You sell it to them. And maybe you set up a plan where instead of paying the mortgage directly to the company, they pay it directly to you. Maybe that's some way that we could make this work. Anyway, I do think you need some legal guidance on this, and I am most certainly not a lawyer, much to my mother's chagrin. Okay, this is from Mark, who writes, I have a broker and she's doing just so-so. I purchased a $50,000 CD, but she didn't let me know that the firm was taking out fees for the service. Ouch. I had a local bank do the same thing for no fees. So I reckon they pulled a fast one. Well, I don't know. Maybe they told you and you didn't hear it. I don't know. I don't want to say it's a fast one. Okay, let's move on. Back to this note. As of June, the CD will mature with a loss, even though it had a 5.25% stated interest rate. A loss? Seems odd to me. Okay, Mark goes on to say, would like to end this relationship and reinvest the $50,000. I'm 72 years old and will pass most, if not all of my money onto my kids and grandkids. No outstanding debts. I've got 529s for the grandkids and $250,000 in low interest investments. Any advice? Well, first, I really would like to understand whether you actually lost money on a CD. That would be odd. But sure, just end the relationship, take the CD and reinvest it. If you want to have another CD, that's fine. Or if you want to put money into the 529 plans, that's fine. But sure, let's get out. Question from Virginia about giving money and annual giving. You can give $18,000, Virginia, to anyone annually, and that's part of the gift tax allowance. If you're going to give more than $18,000 and you're a single person, then you're going to have to file a gift tax return. Doesn't mean you have to pay tax. You just are telling the government, I'm giving more than $18,000 and I'm using part of my benefit that would occur at my death. So keep that in mind. This is from Amy, who writes, I'm facing my first required minimum distribution this year without any withdrawal strategy planning. It seems I've been asleep at the wheel along with my 20-plus year CFP. Oh, goodness. Since receiving the required minimum distribution amount, I've read everything I can find on the subject. My takeaway is that it may be too late to make any significant change. A Roth conversion is a 5-year hold on your money, and close scrutiny is needed to avoid tax problems. Do you have any ideas, or am I stuck with an enormous RMD that has affected my income tax and will do nothing but grow larger every year? I'm angry and beyond embarrassed about this. Don't be embarrassed. This happens all the time. Angry I get, especially since you're working with a CFP. Well, the first question I guess I have, Amy, is that, you're talking about an RMD. So you're probably 72, 73, 74. One question might be is, do you need the money to live on? That's a big question. Because if the answer is yes, then just deal with it, right? If the answer is you don't need all of the money that is part of your RMD, maybe you should use a qualified charitable distribution and take part of that RMD and direct it towards a charity. And in doing so, you'll help a charity out, but also the money will bypass you. So it'll go from the IRA account directly to the charity. And it counts towards your RMD, but if you don't need the money, it's a nice way to minimize the impact of that required distribution. But follow up, let us know more about what's going on, okay? So don't be so hard on yourself. It's the Jill on Money Show, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. It's time for another email. This is from Judy, who wants to know about financing her next home. And she said, I am moving next to my son and daughter-in-law. And here's Judy's plan. She wants to buy a tiny home and put it on their side lot. She says, I'll need to sell my house, which I've lived in for over 40 years. I don't have the cash to purchase the next home until I sell the current one. I need to pay for part of the next home before selling the current one. What are my options? These are always very interesting issues because what you really want to do is sort of say, I want to sort of tap the equity of my current home, but then it's annoying to actually take a loan for such a short period of time. So is it possible? I know this sounds crazy, but is it possible that your son and daughter-in-law can float it? Can they pay for the beginning part of the construction or have maybe a bank where they can back up the loan to you that make it almost like a personal loan or a bridge loan? I'd go to a bank, I'd tell them the situation and see if we can come up with a solution because it seems like there should be a solution and hopefully it'll be one that I think that you can manage. It really depends on the amount of money you really do need. So those are just a few ideas. A lot of banks will do that, especially credit unions. They might be able to do that. All right, this is from Asha. Guess what? Mark, it's like the 8,000 millionth time that we have a subject line that says, can I retire early? But we know you guys love those shows. Those are the most downloaded shows. Okay. So Asha says, like many Americans, I worry about my ability to fund retirement. Okay, so here's what we got. I want to leave my corporate role and I want to focus on pursuits that likely won't generate any income. Those are called hobbies, I think. I'm a longtime listener, fan, and know that you would give me your honest and Jill assessment of my situation. Honesty is good. All right, Mark, you'll love this. Current age, 52. Target retirement age, 53. Okay, we want to retire in a year. Let's look at this. I live in California, so let's just give you that background. Current salary is $200,000. Monthly expense is $6,500. 90 grand in an emergency reserve fund. 401k, 900,000. IRA, I presume that the 401k is pre-tax because this is how it's listed out. IRA pre-tax 300,000. Roth 725. Whoo! And a brokerage account with $1.2 million. Okay, so California, we rent in California, and Asha owns rental property in DC that breaks even. It's worth about $450,000. It has a $200,000 mortgage. Okay. I plan to move back into it for 2 years before I sell it in the future for tax purposes.
These people are so nuts with taxes.
I love it. I'm single, no kids, an overweight cat. Okay, based on calculations, I'll get $3,700 in future Social Security at my full retirement age, which is 67. Can I pull off leaving paid work in a year? All right, let's just look at this for a second. So I have a brokerage account of 1.2 million, and I'm going to have to live on that, right? So we got to pull out 90 grand a year. Let's say it's 90 a year from that. Okay. From 52 to 59 and a half, right? Let's think about how we can manage this. Mark and I were just having a quick conversation where Mark's like, well, maybe Asha can work for a few more years till age 55 and then we can invoke the rule of 55. But I always feel like when someone says, I'm 52 and I want to retire next year, they're not making it to 55. But let's just see if we can do it based on next year. Here's what I'm thinking. From, let's say, 53 to 59, for those 6 years, we pull out 100 grand a year from the brokerage account for 6 years, right? So it'll be a little bit more because it'll be inflated, right, gang? So let's say that of the 1.2, by the time we get to age 59, we've pulled out 700 grand. So now we have $500,000 left. All right. Now, the 401k, we continue to let that grow, and the traditional IRA. And then from 59 to 67, we pull the money out of there. And now we've basically got you to age 67. Now and maybe even, I don't know about your health, but maybe we even go to 70. and we kind of pull all the money out of that 401k over those next 7-8 years, probably going to drain most of it, which leaves us with, Mark, we'll have like $500,000. Again, this is totally back of the envelope. This is not high math, gang. Let's say that we have about $500,000 at age 67 in the brokerage account, and then in the 401k, we've essentially drained most. So let's pretend the whole 401k is gone, and then we have an IRA that's worth give me 300,000 for 14 years, Mark. Let's say it's probably
about 700.
700 in there. I think it's doable. Here's the thing. I think it works so much better, as Mark was saying to me off air, it works better if you work longer, right? If you work till age 55, then you can invoke this thing called the rule of 55. And essentially what happens with the rule of 55 is that you keep working, and then you can take distributions from your 401k without paying the early withdrawal penalty. Now you have to pay taxes on it, but you don't have to have any, there is no penalty for being pre 59 and a half. Okay. May help deplete that required minimum distribution down the line also. Although, listen, by retiring so early, I think what happens is that, you're going to blow through a lot of this, but you're single and it's your prerogative. Single with no kids, except you got to just keep feeding that fat cat. The numbers will look good based on your game plan, but you'll have more options if you wait till 55. Jill on Money. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. Before we conclude the program, let's do an email. This is from Mac, who says, my question is, historically, are the current interest rates exceptionally high or near the average? When I bought my first home, interest rates were 18%. I guess that was an outlier, but the current rates are high. But are they really that high? This is such a great question, Mac. I think that when we look historically, it is true that these rates that we are seeing, meaning that the Fed funds rates or even interest rates on mortgages, they're not historically high. But here is the issue. They went up so fast that it really caught people by surprise. It is rare that we have seen a period where rates spiked so quickly. And so I think that also the other aspect of this is that we're coming from a period, almost a full decade, where interest rates were really low. And so the combination has made this period seem much worse than the historic norm would actually indicate. And sometimes it just doesn't matter. It's really just how people are feeling about these rates. And of course, we do have this situation where people are sitting on such low mortgage interest rates that the housing market is essentially stuck. So it's a great question. Of course, whenever I trot out these historic numbers, people really don't care, but I love that you do care. So thanks for writing in about that. If you, like Mac, have a question about where do things stand historically, or how does this period really rack up against what has happened in the past, and how good an economy is this relatively speaking, or how high is inflation, just give us a holler. Go to JillOnMoney.com and click the Contact Us button. Now, when you click that button, a form will pop up, and that's basically your ability to send us an email. If you want to join us live, however, you've got to check that little box off at the end of the form, and then Mark does everything else. He'll arrange to get you on the air. Our music is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talercio is our executive producer and the king of all things web. We ask you to try to lift someone up. Change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.